I've always believed that families hide their biggest secrets behind the most ordinary traditions. For me, it was Sunday dinner, roast beef no one liked, mismatched napkins, and the kind of tight-lipped smiles that made your jaw hurt. My wife Laura and I pulled into my parents' driveway exactly 6 minutes late, a calculated move to avoid kitchen duty and awkward pre-dinner tension. My sister Melanie was already there, seated like royalty at the head of the table with her perfectly straight back and a smirk that dared anyone to challenge her version of reality. She's been between jobs for 3 years, which really means she lives in our parents' basement, watches cable news, and floods Facebook with conspiracy threads disguised as enlightenment. Her husband's long gone, their divorce so public and bitter, it practically trended on local news. And their son, Caleb, doesn't visit much. No one asked about him. We all know how it ended. But pretending not to notice is just how this family functions. My daughter Emma, 22, and fresh out of law school, sat to my right. Exhausted but polished. She'd just started at a high-powered firm downtown. The kind with frosted glass doors and boardrooms that smell like espresso and ambition. She's always carried pressure like armor. Even as a kid, that night, she looked especially worn, her makeup barely covering the fatigue under her eyes. Still, she was present, nodding politely, as my father monologued about an op-ed he'd read in a paper no one subscribes to anymore. My mother offered critiques like compliments, asking Emma if she'd considered a career path with more regular hours, as if she were suggesting a nice soup recipe. Melanie didn't talk much, just sighed loudly at intervals, as if enduring our presence was an act of charity. I wasn't paying close attention until Emma's fork slipped. The sound wasn't loud, just sharp enough to interrupt the rhythm of the table. She bent to retrieve it, a simple motion, one I wouldn't have remembered if not for what followed. When she sat up, her face was pale. No, worse than pale. It was empty, like someone had reached in and flipped a switch. Her hand found mine under the table with the urgency of a nightmare. Her voice, low and tight, said, "We need to leave now." I stared at her, trying to decode the panic, but she wouldn't look at me. I asked what was wrong, and she said something that didn't make sense at first. "You didn't look under the table." For a second, I thought it was metaphorical, like some cryptic law school lesson about hidden truths, but she meant it literally. I leaned forward, heart knocking against my ribs, and looked. Tucked against one of the table legs was a folded piece of paper. I reached for it, but Emma grabbed it before I could even unfold it. Her hands were trembling. She opened it, scanned it, and clenched her jaw so hard I heard her teeth click. "We're leaving," she said again. This time, I didn't question her. Laura, always sensitive to shifts in tone, nodded immediately. We offered vague excuses: headache, early workday, family, emergency. Pick one, and left. 5 minutes later, we were in the car. I asked her again, what was on the paper? She didn't answer, just stared out the window, like she was waiting for something to shatter. Then she held it up, written in my mother's unmistakable handwriting. Loopy, assertive cursive, were 2 words, River Point, 573. It looked like nothing. A Wi-Fi password, maybe. A location. A dream fragment. I asked again, gently, "What is it?" Her voice cracked. "It's my password." My throat tightened. "Your work password." She nodded. "Did you ever write it down?" "Never," she whispered, but I recognized the handwriting. "It's Grandma's." I couldn't breathe. I'd seen that handwriting all my life. Birthday cards, shopping lists, love notes to my father. And now, here it was on a piece of paper Emma had never shared. She rushed inside the moment we got home, heading straight to her work laptop. I followed, standing awkwardly in the kitchen as she logged in. Her hands flew over the keys, navigating deep into her system. Then she froze. Her face didn't move, but something behind her eyes broke. She whispered, "This is bad." I didn't ask what she saw. I didn't need to. The room was too quiet, too heavy. Laura stood behind me, silent. Emma whispered again, "I know what they did." That's when it hit me. This didn't start with Emma's password. This didn't start at dinner. This started a long time ago, with me, when I still believed our family was normal. When I thought my sister was just dramatic, not dangerous. When I thought my parents were protective, not complicit. But all those assumptions, all those blind spots, they were the cracks in the foundation. And now, something had crawled through them, into our lives, through my daughter's work, and back into my home. And suddenly, the dinner table, the place we were supposed to be safest, felt like ground zero back home. The silence wrapped around us like a second skin. Emma sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, the glow of the screen lighting her face in a pale blue cast that made her look older than 22. Laura lingered in the hallway, unsure whether to stay close or give space. I stayed near the counter, pretending to wash a mug I'd already cleaned, just for something to do. Emma didn't speak. Her fingers tapped quickly, then froze, then tapped again. I watched her eyes shift, scanning documents, logs, timestamps. Whatever it was, it had her locked in. After 10 minutes, she leaned back slowly, as if the chair had become dangerous. She didn't look at me when she spoke. They opened one of my case files from my account. My pulse slammed in my neck. "Who did?" I asked. Though I already knew. Grandma and Grandpa. When they had me over for lunch, that's when it happened. I left my laptop upstairs. I never thought. Her voice cracked, but she swallowed it. They used my login to access a sealed custody file. The words hit like a slow-motion punch. "Whose file?" I asked. Her face turned toward me. "Mark's?" I blinked. "Melanie's ex?" She nodded. "He's a client." I didn't know until tonight, but someone pulled his entire case file from my account. My brain scrambled. "You're saying they accessed legal documents? That's a breach, right?" "It's worse than a breach," she said. "It's a felony." Laura stepped into the room, hands folded over her chest. "Do you think it was Melanie?" Emma shook her head. "She wouldn't have known how. She doesn't even know what multi-factor authentication means. But Mom knows enough. And if they wanted to help Melanie's custody battle, what better way than to steal information about Mark's filings?" My stomach turned. "What did they see?" "Everything," Emma said. "Personal affidavits, medical evaluations, financial records, the works." She closed the laptop gently, as if handling something radioactive. "I didn't give anyone my password. I never wrote it down. They must have watched me type it. Or maybe they had a keystroke logger. I don't know. This could ruin your career," I said, the words tasting like acid. She nodded. "It already might." I didn't know what to say. So I stood next to her, not speaking, not moving, just being there. The next morning, Emma left early. She said she had to go into the office to report what happened. She wore a blazer over jeans, hair tied back, no makeup, just clean and direct, like someone about to testify. I watched her walk to her car, like she was stepping into war. The house was eerily still without her. Laura made coffee, but neither of us drank it. My hands kept shaking. Around noon, Emma texted, "They're opening a formal investigation. I'm on leave effective immediately." She didn't add a sad face or a shrug emoji, just the facts. That night, she sat on the couch with her laptop in her lap and headphones on, reviewing everything. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The storm was in her posture, in the way. Her shoulders stayed stiff for hours. Then, finally, she pulled off the headphones and said, "They'll be contacting Grandma." and Grandpa soon. Do you want me to talk to them? I asked. She shook her head. No, I want to see how they react. When they don't know? I know. The next morning was Sunday. We drove over unannounced. I was done waiting for explanations that never came. Laura stayed home. This was family business, and she'd already carried more than her share. The second my father opened the door, I knew he'd been tipped off. He tried to smile, but it sat on his face wrong, like a mask sliding off. Hey, sport, he said, like it was still 1998. We need to talk, I said. Emma stood next to me, arms folded, face blank. Inside, Mom greeted us with forced cheer, asking if we wanted coffee. No one sat. Emma went straight in. You used my password. You accessed a sealed legal case. You used my work laptop while I was out at lunch with you. My mother's face fell, then hardened. We didn't mean harm, she said. It was just to help your sister. You committed a crime, Emma said, voice flat. Do you understand that? No one got hurt, Dad said. It's not like you're the one who looked at it. It was my account, Emma snapped. Everything tracks back to me. It could cost me my license, my job, everything I've worked for. It's just a job, Mom said. Karen's your sister. Family matters more. Emma stared at her. You said you wanted to see me more. You said you missed me. But it was never about that. You just wanted access. There was silence. A thick, final silence. Then I spoke. You've always protected Melanie, no matter what she did. But this time, you used my daughter to do it, and I won't forgive that. We walked out without another word. In the car, Emma stared out the window. They don't care what happens to me, she said. They never have, I replied, and this time, I knew she believed me. After that confrontation, there was no pretending anymore. The illusion of family dinners, polite check-ins, and birthday messages dissolved like paper in rain. Emma stopped speaking to them entirely, and I followed her lead without hesitation. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty for cutting ties. I felt relieved, but the consequences didn't wait. They arrived like clockwork. 3 days later, Emma was officially suspended from work, pending the outcome of the internal investigation. Her firm had strict protocols for security breaches, and despite her cooperation, the fact remained that her credentials were used to commit a major violation. She handed over all her devices, digital logs, and even a sworn statement. But I could see the toll it was taking on her. She hardly ate, barely slept, and her face was locked in that same unreadable expression day after day. Laura tried to coax her into rest, but Emma always said the same thing. Not until this is over. Then came the call we'd been expecting. Karen, Melanie, had been arrested. Not for the breach, at least not yet. She'd shown up unannounced at Mark's house with toys, insisting on just a conversation, and he called the cops. She was charged with violating a temporary custody order. My mother called me within hours, her voice tangled in feigned disbelief and emotional blackmail. She didn't do anything wrong, she said. She just wanted to see her son. Mark is manipulating everyone. When I asked how Karen had known Mark's new address, a detail only listed in the sealed file Emma's account had accessed, my mother went quiet, then changed the subject. She asked for money to cover bail. I told her no. Emma stood nearby, arms crossed, listening. When I hung up, she said, "They're still lying, even now." I nodded. Of course they are. That's what they do. And that's why we can't let it slide. She took a deep breath. I need to prove what happened. I need undeniable proof. That night, she did something I hadn't expected. She played back a voice recording on her phone. A conversation from the visit with my parents when they thought we were just dropping by. I heard their voices, clearly admitting the breach. I felt a shiver. Emma emailed the file to her firm the next morning with a brief summary. No embellishment, just the facts. By the following evening, she was reinstated, officially, fully. Her record cleared, but she wasn't smiling, not even close. "It's not over," she said. "Mark's legal team wants to press charges, and my firm says they're obligated to cooperate with law enforcement. Now that we have audio evidence." I watched her sitting there on the living room floor, laptop open, surrounded by folders and notes, like a general in a war room. "What happens to them if it moves forward?" I asked. She shrugged. "Depends. Unauthorized access to sealed legal documents can carry felony charges, especially if it's used to influence a custody case." My chest felt heavy. "They might go to prison." Emma looked at me for a long moment. "Do you feel sorry for them?" I thought about it. My parents, with all their lectures about family values, all their conditional love. Melanie, so good at pretending to be the victim, even when she was the one tearing things apart. "No," I said. "I feel sorry for us, for ever believing they were safe." In the days that followed, Melanie was charged with tampering and unauthorized possession of privileged information. She pleaded not guilty, of course. My parents lawyered up, insisted they'd had no idea what was going on. But the evidence said otherwise. Mark filed for a permanent no-contact order. The judge granted it. The court formally recognized my parents as hostile parties in the custody case. Emma testified, briefly, but with precision, calm, sharp, unshakable. Watching her on the witness stand, I didn't feel proud. I felt humbled. She had more courage in that courtroom than I'd ever had growing up in that house. And for once, someone believed her. The system worked. Karen lost all visitation rights, no supervised meetings, no shared holidays, nothing. My parents were barred from contacting Mark's son in any capacity. Their role was on record, their access permanently revoked, and yet they never apologized. Not to Emma, not to me. Instead, they sent an email 2 weeks later, a cold paragraph of denial, claiming misunderstanding, regret without guilt. Emma didn't reply. I blocked their addresses from all our accounts. We moved on, or at least tried to. Emma went back to work, quieter but stronger. She never once used the experience as a badge or cautionary tale. She just got back to the business of helping other people like Mark, navigate hell with their dignity intact. I, on the other hand, kept thinking about all the birthdays, the holidays, the nights I swallowed truth just to keep the peace. And for what? So people who called themselves family could justify betrayal in the name of love. Not anymore. We learned something through all this. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's leverage. And Emma, she's done being leveraged. After the dust settled, we didn't speak about it much. Not out of avoidance, but because there wasn't much left to say. My parents retreated into silence, not even trying to rebuild the bridge they'd burned. Melanie vanished from public life. Her social media scrubbed clean, as if rewriting her narrative would somehow undo what she'd done. The court's decision was final. The orders ironclad. No contact, no exceptions. Emma returned to work full-time, but something in her had shifted. She was still sharp, still meticulous, still driven. But there was a new quietness to her, a focus that came from living through fire and surviving it. She didn't need to tell anyone what had happened. Her silence was enough to make the loudest statement in every room she entered. One night, a few weeks after the court closed the case, I found her in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, staring up at the sky like she was trying to memorize it. I walked out and stood beside her, not saying anything. She finally spoke. "I keep wondering if it would have been different if you had spoken up when you were younger." I knew what she meant. I had let so many things slide, so many lies wrapped in the language of family. I should have protected her better. I should have seen the signs long before she had to. I wonder that too, I said. She didn't answer, just nodded slightly. It wasn't blame. It was recognition of the cracks that had always been there and how long we had ignored them. The next morning, she packed a suitcase, nothing dramatic, just a few clothes, a laptop, and a folder full of papers. I'm going to take some time off, she said. I'll be in Oregon for a while. A friend has a cabin. I didn't stop her. She'd earned space to heal on her own terms. Before she left, she gave me a letter, not handwritten, typed, double-spaced, precise. It wasn't dramatic, just a thank you for standing by her, for believing her, for changing. It ended with, "You're not the man I feared you'd become. You're better." And I see that now. I didn't cry reading it, but something broke quietly inside me and stayed broken in the best way. The silence after she left was different from before, not hollow, just calm. Laura and I slowly started reclaiming the house, room by room. The air felt lighter. Even our arguments became softer, like we'd both learned what really mattered and what never had. A month later, the firm called to say Emma had been promoted. Officially, the case hadn't damaged her career. If anything, it proved her integrity. She returned in the fall, a little tanner, a little quieter, but with that same laser focus. She didn't bring it up, and we didn't ask. Healing wasn't a show. It was a process. One night, she sat with us for dinner. Real dinner, not the performative kind we used to fake for my parents. She laughed at something Laura said and reached across the table for a second helping of potatoes. That small gesture nearly broke me. She was here, she was whole, and we'd earned that moment. Sometimes, I still get emails from old family friends asking why we don't come around anymore. I don't reply, not because I'm angry, but because some stories don't need to be retold. They just need to end, and this one did, quietly, precisely, with the truth laid bare and no one left to lie about it. Melanie still lives with my parents. They've built a new story now, one where they're victims of overreaction, of misinterpretation. But the courts don't care about stories. They care about facts. And Emma made sure the facts were undeniable. I drive past their house sometimes, not to spy, just because the route cuts through the old neighborhood. The lawn still looks the same. The porch swing still creaks when the wind hits it, but the light inside is different now, dimmer. The kind of light that flickers just before it dies. Emma's life is hers again, and mine, somehow, is fuller than it's ever been. We don't talk much about the password anymore, or the moment everything shifted under the dinner table, but I think about it often. The way she looked at me, pale and determined, and said, "We need to leave now." I didn't understand then, but I do now. Sometimes leaving isn't walking away, it's waking up. And once you do, you don't ever go back to sleep.